What's going on, people? How is everybody doing today? I know I'm on later than I normally am, but got a lot going on because I'm going to be in Kenya in the next 2 weeks, and so there's been a lot of preparation. I'm at the real estate brokerage office. We've been having a lot of meetings. I'm getting a lot of things together for my physical absence here in New Jersey. If you guys don't know, my name is Ryan Fagan. I am a real estate broker and owner of Hardy Real Estate. I've been in the real estate industry for a very long time, held a lot of different positions, and I love going to Kenya, slowly relocating. And I have two properties there, one rental and one that I stay at. And I have two under contract, and I do some investing and just exploring and learning more about the business environment, the people, the culture, and that's kind of what I do here. Some housekeeping notes for those of you that have been following is that I've made two new channels. So what I'm going to be doing is splitting off the live content because the lives are have a bit more of a broad content category in the clips, and I don't want them cluttering the main channel. I've been noticing the analytics being a little funny, so for YouTube purposes, I'm splitting the channel off. I'll post some things with the links to the new channels if you guys are interested in these lives to go subscribe there. At some point, I'm going to stop going live on this channel, so if you're looking to get notifications and all that, you're going to have to go over to that one. This should organize the content better and make the viewing experience a little bit less confusing for everybody, and also just help with the algorithm. The second channel is, and they're all just my name dash whatever they are. So it's Ryan Fagan dash live is the channel. And that's going to have all the live content and the clips. Unless there's some crossover, I'm working on the collab system and everything on YouTube as they keep changing things. But that's what's going to be going on. So if you don't stop noticing the lives, that's because they've moved over to the other channel, probably starting next week. I'm still working out some of the kinks. I'm trying to dual stream to both channels. I'll see if I'm able to do that. If not, we'll have to figure it out. But go over there and subscribe. I'll post it in the community notes, and I probably should get the link for you guys. I'll do that in a second. Couple topics today. The building collapse in Nairobi, South Sea. Unfortunately, a couple people passed away. Really horrible story. And obviously, that has to do with real estate and some of the questions that we had with FKC Legal on the last live, as far as the building inspectors and are the buildings going to fall down? Who makes sure that they're safe? All of that, I have many thoughts. And I know a lot of you guys have reached out, and you guys see I'm paying attention to the news. So as soon as that happened, I posted that on my YouTube community post tab. So that's, one way to follow. I also, it's funny, we have a dichotomy of issues, and the building collapse actually goes into the Anthony Joshua situation. If you guys don't know, Anthony Joshua is a really famous boxer and a really popular boxer, just fought Jake Paul and made a whole bunch of money, and then he went to Nigeria because he's originally Nigerian for a Dedi December, and was in a really horrific car accident where two of his, like I believe, longtime friends died in the crash. And the scene was really bad because there's no ambulances. There's, people are just grabbing him out of the car. He could be getting more injured that way. And basically the lack of services and the lack of infrastructure that's able to help people in an emergency in Nigeria was under a lot of scrutiny. Oddly, they're charging the driver with homicide, but I imagine how that relates to Kenya is that probably my least favorite thing about Kenya is the driving. I feel like it's very unsafe. I think the decisions drivers make on the roads is bad. Plus, the roads are okay. I don't know exactly how they compare to Nigeria. I haven't been there, but many people would say that the roads in Kenya generally are better than Nigeria and Ghana and West Africa in general. But I still see a lot of dangers and risks in the driving situation in Kenya. The overtaking, buses going trying to pass each other in insane ways that it's crazy. That's what led me to purchase my own vehicle. I don't like how people drive. I think they take unnecessary risks driving in the opposing side of traffic. And almost every day on like Nairobi Gossip Club and other Kenya news sites, I see fatal accidents with, especially with buses and trucks, just like devastating collisions, and that's a very frequent thing to happen. And I think it's really bad. Um, it's really concerning, and to me doesn't make a lot of sense because yes, if the roads are bad, I understand, but the way people drive is really bad. But really, what I wanted to get at with the dichotomy of the Anthony Joshua situation and iShowSpeed is doing his Africa tour, and it's like a lot of us that are coming back to the continent. There's like two views of the continent in two different extremes, and I think they're kind of both true from my limited experience, and that is that there are there's risk. It's a more open, less safe environment in general. Like not less safe with crime, but less safe with if you need an ambulance or there's an emergency or there are instability or any kind of issues. Um, there's no one there to help you, and it's a different perspective that you need to have and a different attitude that you need to have. And I don't mind it. I'm all for kind of handling your own business and making sure that you're good. But a lot of people from the West, there's a lot of systems around to help and support and help save people from themselves. And on the continent, not so much. And so there's some of the downsides, the real downsides of people romanticizing Africa and going to the continent. And Anthony Joshua just millionaire doing great, but when you get into a car accident, maybe no one's there to help you, or the systems aren't there that are going to be able to help you like they would be in Western countries. And I'm not making criticism of that. I'm just saying this is a reality of the situation. At the same time, if you guys know, iShowSpeed is a streamer, one of the most probably top 5 streamers in the world, and he does, IRL streams all across the world. He did Europe, he did Asia, and now he's in Africa. And I think it's like so, it's not really my type of content what he does, but I really think it's really interesting, and I relate to, like, you could tell the energy is different because he was in Angola first and then South Africa, and like the reception and how people were acting towards him was really cool. And everybody's so warm, like, and he's asking them questions, and you could tell the energy is way different. Because I remember when he was in Europe, he would have like fans doing monkey noises and racist stuff and like doing pranks on him and like being kind of low key disrespectful, like weird energy the whole time. Not in every country, but especially in Eastern Europe. And I think those two stories go to show the type of experience that it is to go to the continent, right? Like in one aspect, it's so warm and welcoming, and that connection as black people, especially from the West, coming back, especially for the first time, you're like the ideas that you have about the continent are probably wrong, and you get to rediscover and learn a lot of things that you didn't know. Plus, it is a interesting experience to be in a majority black country and to be around, kind of where you came from, to be honest. And it's a different vibe versus, again, when iShowSpeed's in Europe, the energy's weird, And I've lived in Germany, I've been across Europe, and I had a good time. I don't think it's a bad thing, but the energy is different when on the continent, or at least my experience in Kenya has felt like that. It feels, and it still sounds cheesy and corny, but it does feel a little more at home. It feels more connected for sure. I feel less touristy, even though I definitely feel like a foreigner, and because people treat you a certain way, but it just comes off much warmer to me. And at the same time, it's kind of the Wild West. We talk about the real estate, we talk about scamming, business, trying to get things done. It can be chaotic. And again, you got to be on your P's and Q's. You got to pay attention. No one's going to help and save you out there. Like, a lot of people come, they have all this romanticized view, and a lot of people end up leaving because of these type of issues, power issues, infrastructure, safety with medical, if you don't know the system. So I think when you take these two different scenarios together and combine them, I think it's a more realistic aspect of going to Africa in general. Obviously, it's a big place. Every country is much different. West Africa is way different than East Africa. But I'm just trying to make a broader point of, you could be Anthony Joshua, a millionaire, and run into a really tragic situation. Which, I mean, a car accident can happen anywhere, but the the road situation, the chaos, I can promise you. Just I'm assuming Nigeria is like Kenya to some degree with the driving, is very hazardous. I'm telling you guys, I think it's probably the worst thing for me in Kenya is the driving. Let me pull up, because I bet you I could find some crazy driving in like 2 seconds as a video. Hold on, let's bring that up. But where's everybody at? I know I'm on a different time, but goodness, yeah. I'm surprised no one's saying hello. There's 10 people in here allegedly, unless you guys are bots. Because the last time we were getting botted crazy. I don't know what was going on with that. But if you're in here, hit that subscribe button and say hello. Let me go. Let me check Nairobi Gossip Club here. And then we'll talk about the South B building collapse as well. Let me see. No, no. There's the South B, South C. I'm sorry, South C, not South B. Dun, dun. No bots here. What's going on, man? Did you you got to reschedule the consultation? I've been ready for you. Okay, maybe I'm not finding it that fast. Maybe I saved it. Let's see. How do I go to my saves? Sorry for the delay here. Do I save that much stuff? That's crazy. Dang, I can't find. Oh, dang, I really can't find it, huh? All right, well, I'll bring that up later. Let me share my screen here. Which one do we want to share here? Okay. So a building collapsed, 16-story building, South Sea, and people were asking me definitely my thoughts and opinions about it. So let's talk about it a little bit. What's up, Nerd Novatech? Let's talk about it. I don't think we need this. Okay. Well, actually, let's read this first. Okay. Is this better? Yeah, that's better view. All right. This is a second article, so we'll skim over it. MPs demand immediate halt to construction in Nairobi after South Sea building collapse. Members of parliament have demanded immediate suspension of construction activities in parts of Nairobi following the collapse of a 16-story building under construction in South Sea, an incident that occurred on Friday, January 2nd. What I wanted to get to was Langata MP Felix Odor, popularly known, described the incident as tragic, unacceptable, and called for immediate stop to all construction in South Sea in Nairobi westwards until safety audits, compliance checks are carried out. So one of the questions that I always had was, what is the quality of the building inspections? Are they doing proper inspections? What's the safety of these new buildings, because so many buildings are being made, and it's a complicated topic. The MP said the continued disregard for the continued disregard for construction regulations had put lives at risk, adding that building activities should only resume after approvals, safety inspections, and verifications by all relevant authorities. Now, this is not in the article, but I did read that there was a stop order placed on this particular building, and the building was only approved for 12 stories, and the developer has built it to 16 stories. And so I think a common narrative that you will always see is, oh, corruption, which it could be true. But part of me says, well, if there was a stop order on this work, there is a degree of, supervision on these projects. Now, if you do a stop order and they keep working on the property, someone probably should come and actually stop them and like tell them again. But I do think it's a good sign that they did deem the building unsafe, right? So this idea that people are just getting paid off and they are not doing their job at all, I don't think is true, because why was there a stop order in the first place? And I'm just reading reports, so the truth of these things is a little bit hard to come by. And that's consistent, which Abdi was saying on the last live, he's a lawyer from FKC Legal, our legal partner here that we talk to usually monthly. And he was saying that they do inspect, and even if they were being paid, they're not going to overlook major safety issues. So now, if a developer goes rogue and violates those issues, kind of the things that I think is like, do they get away with doing that? Because if they do, then that is a big problem, right? But how do you just build 16 stories when you're only approved for 12 or 13 or whatever the amount was, right? Does that happen frequently, where you just disregard the government? Because we're not saying that the government did not approve this stuff. So I'm trying to be fair as far as like how I'm viewing it, and I'm trying to be objective, because I don't know what the truth is, and I don't know what my perspective on the safety of the buildings, which has always been a question in the back of my mind about this stuff. You hear about bad Chinese concrete and all this kind of stuff. And how do you know because the thing with concrete is like the cement to stone to sand mixture, and the moisture and the loads and all that is quite scientific about the different mixtures. So it is a legitimate concern. Like, you better be using the right concrete. And are they testing it? How do you know it's the right stuff after they have done it? Is there enough oversight to make sure that these properties are safe? I don't know the answers to these questions. I'm just kind of thinking out loud with you guys and my perspective on what I've seen happen. So let's continue, see if anything else we want to talk about. So I did notice, I don't know if that's listed in the article, a building on Paponi Road actually had a stop order recently because they said the retaining wall of the foundation was not sufficient and that it was at risk of collapse or something. So I have seen incidents where the government comes and says this is not safe during construction. So there are claims that, oh, if you just pay them enough, it can. I have no idea. Maybe they didn't pay. I don't know. So to say that the system completely doesn't work, I don't know if I agree with. Victory Abroad, $10 super chat. Thank you. How do we, I really appreciate that. Where's our air horns at? Oh, man. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Hello, I'm currently in Kenya. This Saturday is my apartment building open house event to view model. Hey, nice. Which one? It's really exciting, right? But it's actually a frustrating time when you start doing like the open house and then doing the handover, because I always find a bunch of issues and you got to fight with them to fix the issues. Very annoying. If you guys remember, when I was doing the lives while I was in Kenya, after I was doing all my adulting, getting appliances, furniture, interior design, handover, you know, doing the content and everything, whew, I was tired, mentally tired of dealing with everything. That is ignorance. What part is ignorance? What part? Keep up the great work. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really, really do. I've been super busy. I really want to be consistent on these at the same time. I do still want to do noon Eastern Standard Time. But it's funny, the couple weeks leading up to coming to Kenya are incredibly busy for me because I have my business here I have to prepare. I got to get my house ready to be gone for so long. I got to get my dogs ready, get them, you know, I got a lot of stuff to take care of before I leave. And then once I leave, there's not much I can do. So it's a lot of preparation. I got new gear. We're stepping up the video production. Actually, I have a lot of announcements coming up. We have some big objectives for this trip. I'll be in Kenya from January to March. So if you're in town, hit me up. Same issues happen in Coastal City and Mombasa and Nakuru. So I think my question is, are these guys just going rogue and not getting caught? Because people always say corruption every time. And I'm like, it seems like the developer is the one to blame. Now, if you do a stop order and they don't stop, you should probably stop them at some point, especially not after they do all them stories. But he further demanded the suspension of approvals for undocumented. Yeah, but if they're not documented, how is there an approval anyway? Suspicious developments across Nile are being called for prosecution of any public officials, developers, or professionals found to have enabled unsafe construction. Oh, Mont Bleu. Oh, that's out now? I was wondering. Oh, very cool. I'm going to have to check it out. Because I know Marble West. I haven't been to Mont Bleu. They're demanding stronger enforcement mechanisms in Nairobi City County to ensure that every structure meets the highest safety standards, not just those with connections. Lives cannot be rebuilt, but systems can. Let this disaster spur the reform Nairobi has long needed so that we never again mourn deaths. True. And I'm not doing a this or that, but, you know, building safety is an issue everywhere. It's probably more of an issue in Kenya, to be fair. Hopefully, just like what this MP is saying, hopefully that they increase their systems because, you know, just growing really rapidly is going to leave it's hard to increase your systems at the same time that the city's increasing. So having more building officials, having more oversight, updating systems, it's going to be challenging. So I do think it's a legitimate concern for anybody who's concerned about the building quality, safety of the buildings for sure. I wonder what you guys think. Um, do you think this is a rare situation? Do you think that, everyone buying a property should be really concerned about the structural integrity of their property? Just like I wonder what Kenyon's general thoughts are on that, and anybody really, like if you're an investor, if that's something. I've seen a lot of the comments were saying that's why they would never buy in Kenya, and if you think that your life is in danger, I wouldn't want to buy a building that endangers your life either. Now, me personally, I don't really feel the risk is that high, but you never know. A lot of times when I'm approaching this stuff, I don't know if I'm being naive or overly positive or anything. So I'm a rookie when it comes to Kenya versus other people, and obviously Kenyans that live there their whole lives. And I think there's an interesting perspective that I have, though, because, from speaking to many Kenyans, things have changed a lot in just 10 or 20 years. And so local Kenyans, like, how first impressions are hard to change? If you grew up and the systems were way worse, there was more injustice, there was more scams, there was, the buildings were, unsafe. A lot of developers didn't finish their off-plan developments and such. And then things start improving or changing. Your perspective may be slow to change. And meanwhile, I come and I'm here when things have been updated, or at least the perception to me is that things move pretty well. And I don't see a lot of developers not finishing, or at least the type of developments that I've been looking at, like anything I've covered, is still progressing. And if I did content on a property and then there was an issue, I would definitely immediately make sure I talk about it, right? So, and I keep up with them because I definitely want to have done a video about whatever project, and then it ends up stalling out or something, and I don't even update or let people know that. That would be crazy. So I always wonder, is my fresh perspective more clear, or is it people that have been in the country their whole lives more clear? And that is the audacity to say that is crazy, I understand, but hopefully you guys are following like the concept that I'm talking about here, where things have changed so much that the type of perspective that you have with fresh eyes is accurate to the days and times. Now, I could be naive and I could be overly positive. For example, the Somali fraud and all that. And now I'm seeing all these headlines like, this is what's boosting the real estate in Kenya. And I'm like, I don't think that the scale of that and the amount of money is the sole thing boosting the real estate market. I'm just not that skeptical, but I find that Kenyans are very skeptical, and I feel like that's from their experience with the country, but over a longer period of time. Interestingly, I meet with many of you guys in the diaspora, and I feel like many of you that are interested in returning are observing the same things, because some of these people in the diaspora have not been back in many years, and they're also surprised at what's been going on. And so I don't know the answer to that question. I could be like, we're gonna find out if I'm being overly positive and naive, or if my positive perspective is accurate, or the cynical people that think that everything's corrupt and it'll never do good and something bad will always happen. We'll see like what perspective is more accurate over time, and I'll be here to document it. And if something tragically goes wrong, I'll report to it, because I am sharing my perspective with you guys. I mean, that's really what it is. The goal of what I'm doing is to expose people to opportunities, or not just opportunities, but just like expand your mind to the possibilities of other things. I was having a conversation with some friends, and they were like, "I never even thought about Africa or Kenya or anything." And I'm like, someone was saying they know what restaurants I'm at because I post on Instagram, like, and they're like, "Oh, I never knew things could look like that there." And I think at the core of what I'm trying to do is just, hey, this is what this looks like. This is what this experience is. And of course, I'm sharing my own point of view, but you can use my point of view to form your own point of view is really what the goal is. Now let's see what some of these comments are. You're concerned. Concern is good. It might be rare now, but as it continues growing, it might be a very common issue. Do we think that they just don't have enough people inspecting? Good afternoon. I'm back in the trap. Actually, oh, you're back from Ghana. Oh, you know what? Everybody on here that's given a Ghana review has been saying they would prefer Kenya, and Ghana was so high on my list, but from the feedback everybody's given me, it's real low. And as a content aspect, I'm like 70% sure that within the next 3 months I'm going to be in Kenya, but I'm going to either go to Ethiopia or Cape Town, South Africa. And I'm going to try to check out some real estate and see how things work there as well. But I'll also kind of be on vacation, so don't hold me to it. Because, guys, I went to Kenya the first time. I didn't make any content. I filmed stuff, but I didn't do any content. I had no intention of ever really doing content. I just put out a couple of I put out the first video. It got more views than it normally does because I've been on YouTube since like 2016 talking about real estate in the U.S. and New Jersey. And actually, it really helped my business, even though I don't get a lot of numbers. And then, but yeah, when I first came in 2024, early January 2024, I did not do any content. And yeah, anyway, so I posted that one video. It got more views, and I was like, oh, I'll do another video. And then it kind of went crazy, at least crazy from my perspective. And then I did one of them real estate tours, and that went crazy. I was like, oh, okay, well, this is something people want to see, and I like sharing. Again, like just a opportunity. I want to open people's minds and provide some information, and I do have a real estate background, so it kind of gives some more gravity to the content. And it just picked up from there. I never came to Kenya like I'm going to be a content creator. It kind of has just been happening. But I mean, if there's a demand for it and you guys like it, I'm going to keep doing it. But we'll see what happens. Good questions. Fire is a safety concern too. Last week, a tall residential building in Nigeria caught on fire. People were deleted. Fire is a weird thing because how the heck are these concrete buildings catching fire? I guess concrete buildings can catch fire, but they seem way more flame retardant than a wood house. But it is I do know it's a concern. There was some other country, there was a fire. What's tough with social media? It makes it really hard to know, like, how prevalent something is. Like even on this channel, we get some haters from time to time, and it's like, is this a real sentiment of a, does this represent, what kind of percentage of people does this represent? Or is it just some trolls? You know? So if you see a fire here and a building collapse there and a shooting here and a crime there, it can make you feel like bad stuff is happening all over, which it does, but like what's the probability of that happening? So anytime I look at news or social media, I always am, and you know, with COVID and crazy things with government and everything, I feel like everything's a lie. I don't believe anything. I don't believe nothing. That's the problem. See, I'm going on a tangent, but actually, it's a problem in the U.S., but I notice it happens in Kenya even more. So, for example, people say that all the buildings are going to be empty, right? Or that everything's overbuilt, or corruption is the reason why the prices are going up. I mean, not corruption, money laundering and illegal activity. These things could be the case, but like there's no data. So people are just saying things. You know, how do we get to the truth? And I think probably one of the worst things that's happened to the United States is the death of real journalism. You know, like now you have a YouTuber who investigates the Somali fraud in Minnesota, and then CNN investigates the investigator. But why the heck didn't they just investigate if his claims were correct? So now, like, to me, the video looked like those are clearly scams where they're saying that there's a whole bunch of kids there. They're getting the government money and no one checks on it. And maybe there's 4 or 5 kids that end up going, but not as many as they're saying. So they're collecting extra money, right? That's kind of like where I've landed on where I think the truth is of the fraud. But why the heck is the news media with billions of dollars not doing proper investigations? Instead, they're going after the YouTube guy who did the journalism in the first place. Like, what happened to doing actual journalism? So now I have no idea what to believe. And I think that's a problem in Kenya because everyone just says corruption to everything. Like people are making like extraordinary claims all the time, and they're like considered valid. Just like you're seeing all these articles like the Nairobi real estate market is being propped up by Somali fraud in Minnesota. Like, come on, like, let's use logic here. How much money were they defrauding, and how was it all going to the Kenyan real estate market? And what's the size of the market? How, like, is it 1%? Is it 10%? Is it 50%? Without knowing these things, how can you make any kind of determination or conclusion about what the impact of any of this stuff is? There is no freaking data. So, like, people are coming to conclusion off of a headline, and everything is manipulative. So when I, for example, the building collapse, I'm looking at the building collapse, and I see some of the facts, you know, and I just have more. I end up with more questions. I can't make much of a conclusion about the building safety based off of the story. Oh, both perspectives do matter. Then let the viewers be the judge. Oh, for sure. But and also, I'm not asserting my. I have to. So I have a perspective, but I will always acknowledge I don't know if my perspective is accurate. I'm saying that it's my perspective based off of the information, and I do think that I go about forming that perspective cautiously, as cautiously as possible, and aggregating as much information as possible. But I don't know everything. The lighting is changing. Okay, it's getting darker. Kenya is definitely better. Oh shoot! Oh man!
Oh God!
cheaper and better weather. Kenya has better pockets of living areas. Wow. Sufficient. Hey, what's going on? How are you? But if you guys have time, check out the iShowSpeed. I'm telling you, it's really I really identified with his experience, although I'm not a streamer yelling and screaming and having a whole bunch of people around. But like the human interaction, I really relate to. Like you could tell his energy is a little different, and the people's energy with him is different. So hopefully, that whole thing that I was talking about makes sense, because a lot of people are coming to the continent on some romanticism, and I'm like, it ain't, don't do it. That daycare fraud was investigated by the government, and they said operating as expected. I don't think so, because, see, again, none of this stuff makes sense, because they said they've been battling fraud for like 10 years. But why the heck how do you battle fraud where you're losing millions and maybe even $1 billion over such a long period of time? You know? So it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does. This is why I'm very skeptical of government. I don't like these programs, because government is not good at managing any of these type of things, and it lends to corruption. And this is to my corruption. This is my Africa versus U.S. corruption point, because everyone in Africa always says, "Oh, our problems are all because corruption," and I'm like, I hear you, but I promise you, the U.S. and the West has just as much corruption. They just do it in a different way. You see, it's more complicated, and there's more pieces of paper involved, and some of it is legal. Political donations. What do you think that is? What the heck is the difference between a political donation and a bribe to somebody? Why do you think they're donating? You think they're just donating millions of dollars for fun? They want something. So, actually, it brings up a good point with U.S. aid and the healthcare agreement between the U.S. and Kenya. So, as an update to that, the Kenyan Supreme Court actually put a pause on that agreement. Basically, it was a healthcare agreement where the U.S. was going to give up, I think it was like up to $2.5 billion over a course of a certain amount of years. But, so the big change was that instead of what the U.S. policy was before was to give money to NGOs, non-government organizations, all these like type of charity programs and different independent operations within different countries. So there'd be some kind of company in Kenya that would help or allegedly help with HIV testing and stuff like that, right? So they get a whole bunch of money, and most of the money disappears and nothing actually happens. Like if they get $10 million, maybe like $1 million actually like gets used in the appropriate way. The rest of it gets vendors, people's friends, all that kind of thing, right? Which is corruption again, waste, corruption. Trump administration got rid of all that. They got rid of U.S. aid completely, and then they are trying to replace those agreements with these new agreements, and this health agreement. So the U.S. was going to give money, and it'll probably get sorted out, but they wanted to track the data, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds about like the specific items of data. I did read about it, but the Kenyan Supreme Court said, no, this is an intrusion, invasion of privacy for Kenyan's health data. And you kind of see both sides, right? Like it makes sense for both, right? So if my tax dollars are going to another country, I want to know what the heck is happening and the impact of it, right? So if we're giving $2.5 billion, I want to see some results. I need to see some stats on like where that money's going, what it's doing. Is it working? Is it getting different rates down? Is it helping these different things? So you do need data. Again, back to my data point, you need data to be able to track this stuff. But Kenyan Supreme Court is saying, well, that data belongs to the people and we shouldn't be giving it. So it makes sense on both sides. But like, if I'm going to give you money for something, then I do feel that I have the right to be able to know what you're doing with the money and be able to like audit what's going on. So I'm curious to see. And again, I hear Kenyans say that everything is corrupt and that's why there's all these problems and nothing works. But that seems like a, you know, that's a recognizable government system that I recognize. Like the Supreme Court says, no, this violates the Constitution in some way in Kenya. Overriding the president. That's what the checks and balances are for. That's how that system is created. So that seems like a working system, at least in that sense. You know, so what I'm doing is I'm taking little notes and I'm aggregating a conclusion about my perspective. And so when I see, oh, okay, that seems, and I was reading a little bit of the type of data they were collecting and stuff, and I said, oh, that makes sense that they would put a halt to this agreement. And I'm sure they'll probably amend the agreement so that it's satisfactory to both sides, or maybe they withdraw it. I don't know, because our country's being a little crazy right now. We kidnapping other leaders of other countries and their wives under suspicious pretenses. So a lot of weird stuff is going on. Wait, why does it have my name here? I don't want that. I don't need that there. We know me. Okay, well, it's going to stay there because I don't know how to get rid of it. They update the software like every time. So it gets crazy. If you guys missed it earlier, a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to make 2 different channels. One's going to hold this live, so make sure you guys go subscribe over there. Let me try to get the link to that channel, because the next live's probably going to be over there, and then now you guys are going to be missing it, and then that channel is not even monetized, so then I won't be able to do the super chats. Hopefully we can get it up. But I want to help with the viewer experience, and I know that the live clips can be confusing, and also we talk about different topics, so it's a little bit different than the regular. Okay, so here is the live link. Let's put in the comments. Boom. And then I have another one. Oh, I didn't even talk about it. I'm still working on the graphics, so don't kill me. Boom. And this one is called, oh wait, I put the same thing twice. Hold on. I'm not doing a good job, I'm sorry. Let's make sure we get the right thing. Okay. Sorry. I did the wrong thing. Okay. Let me delete this. Delete that. And I see your question, Freedom. I'm going to get there in a second. Actually, Freedom, I'm curious what your perspective is on the building collapse. I don't know if you missed what I was saying earlier, but you are usually more on the skeptical side. So I would be curious what you have to say about this whole situation. So, anyway, the live is going to have the live, obviously, and the clips and such. And so we're going to segregate out the content. So subscribe over there if you like the lives, because you'll stop seeing that I'm live and stuff if you don't. And then I'm sure the views are going to go down, but whatever. I want to clean up my page and make it more um, focused kind of on the real estate and business stuff. And then the live will be like all these other topics that I like to talk about. I'll probably even open up the topics a little bit more, since then it won't, then it'll be spread out. The other one is called stories. So I've always wanted to do um, documentaries, and I'm like, I'm in Kenya, and I think I want to tell stories that I find interesting in Kenya, mostly about people, human interests. I would love to. I just kind of want to do some visual storytelling with the documentary, higher production value, way more thought put into the type of content. Definitely not vlog, but basically a documentary format. Short ones at first. Maybe we get longer as I get better. But it's we'll see my level of ability to pull it off. But it's something that I always wanted to do. I'm not even really concerned about the views and the content. I really just want to do it. I just want to tell stories. I don't know. I think it's a nice medium, and I think a lot of the content, you know, is like if you're watching the news or like these big organizations, they do the slums or this remote place and people are starving and protest. I want to show normal people, but like I think first of all I have a Western point of view, so my point of view of like things happening in Kenya or people is going to be a little bit different, and I want to show. I kind of want to just normalize the continent more, because people are people everywhere across the world, and I don't think there's enough normal stories, right? It's always like a safari or like some exotic thing. And I actually want to be like anti making Kenya or Africa seem exotic. That's kind of like the point. Through humans, through people and their stories. So that's something that I really want to work on. So that channel is just Ryan Fagan Stories. I'm working on one before I leave. I got to do like the voiceover, and then I get a whole bunch of B-roll for it. I've never described why I ended up in Kenya, why I like it so much. I've tried to articulate it, but I think that what I'm going to do is do it in a much more artistic and deep diving way, and kind of like going quite a bit deeper than I do generally about myself. And I don't know, it's pretty intimate. So I have it scripted out and everything, so it'll be really interesting. Go subscribe over there if you're interested in that kind of thing. Again, that's a different kind of content than everything else. I'll still be doing the home tours, looking at real estate. I am looking at land more than the apartments right now. I will try to cover all the new developments. I have a really big announcement as far as real estate in Kenya on this trip. I want to get everything lined up, because I know that when it gets announced, a lot of people are going to want to work with the service that's coming out. And I don't want to get destroyed and bashed if it's not perfect on day one. So we're working really hard on making something that's really good. So also, I still want to do the coast tour. I want to do North and South Coast. So that's going to be part of the mission. That's a lot to do in 3 months. Last time I was getting my life together there. Now I have a home base of operations set up. So I should be able to do more and go further. Freedom said, currently in Europe for a bit. We'll be home next week. Okay. I'm a Nigerian American in Lagos, Nigeria right now. Lagos is a vibe if you got the right connect on the ground. Rapper, streamer DGG is having the time of his life to that point that he's, yeah, it's fun for sure. I want to, I have a friend in Abuja, if I said it right. She got married and everything, moved and everything. I used to work with her. And I definitely want to get out there. It is like the vibes are on point. It's all the other stuff that can get annoying and hectic. Plus, it's not cheap. It's expensive, right? I looked at them Airbnbs like, oh, of course DDG is gonna have a good time. He got a whole bunch of money. Everyone knows who he is, but yeah, it's fun. Niger King. But but my whole point of earlier is just like it's great and the people are great, but it's the Wild West a little bit. Like anything can happen, which I like. That's the thing, though, guys. Like I like that. I on paper, you're supposed to have a lot of freedom in the U.S., but in practice, not so much. When you go to these other places, a lot more freedom, just because there's not as much like like yeah, the rules or the rules are not enforced in the same way, so it's more freedom. Plus, then if you have money, it even gives you more freedom. But yeah, I would like to get out there. Man, Lagos seems so hectic though. I don't want to be in a traffic jam for 2 hours trying to go down the street. Is it really like that? They talk about you need security to get to your hotel. People getting kidnapped. I don't know, man. That's my problem with South Africa, the crime. Because I'm not from there. I don't know what's dangerous, not dangerous. I don't know. I can't. I don't understand language. Even the pidgin English. I don't know what they're saying. You know. So when you don't know, for me, even in Kenya, this is why I'm learning Swahili because I don't like when people are speaking and they start speaking loud. I don't know if they're angry, happy. My like situational awareness. It's hard to have situational awareness when you don't understand the language. Does that make sense? This is a military thing. I don't know. I'm always paying attention to what's going on. And Kenya's safe, but that's never going to go away where I'll be like, people talking loud. Because look, in Philly, people start talking loud, I'm leaving. Because the next thing you know, people start shooting. And you're going to catch some bullets for no reason. Because they was arguing about who got more money, whose shoes are nicer or something. I'm not even joking. I was downtown Philly. It was last year. I was with my brother, and this is in the nice part, downtown. And guys are like yelling and screaming at each other about who got more money and whose clothes were better. And I think they were being friendly, but the volume at which they were talking to each other made me feel like this could go left at any moment. And if you're from like these type of cities or been living in these cities in the US for a long time, niggas start getting loud. Be careful. It's time to go. Or you can stay. But I don't want to be in none of them tragic stories. You just having a good time and catch some bullets. No, thank you. Over nothing. you know, it's really, it's really like that. I was playing in the soccer league in Philly. A different, not my favorite one, a different one. A whole brawl started. They was fist fight. I don't know how the guy was getting punched so much. Dude was just getting punched in his face like 7, 8 times. No problem. And everybody started fighting. I'm leaving. Okay, because someone's going to go to their book bag or backpack and shoot the place up. And I'm leaving before all that happens because they don't know what they're doing. Look, I was in the military. I'm not too scary about that kind of stuff, but I just don't want to be caught in a senseless situation. I'm gonna be mad as heck. I'm minding my own business, and because people can't argue right, and you get shot. I ain't doing that. That's terrible. No, thank you. I'll just leave. So, but yeah, I know we're late, so Kenyan audience probably didn't make it. Next week is my last weekend here in the U.S. I'm gonna be in Kenya thereafter. I'm actually leaving on my birthday. I won't tell y'all when my birthday is though. And we got a lot of announcements. The content's upgrading. We're going to do more stuff. I'm probably going to cover another country a little bit. We're going to look at land. We're going to hit the coast. A business will be launched before I leave. A business in the field that I'm in. I pray to God that our execution is good and that I'm really worried about, I think the best thing I have right now is a really good reputation, and that means a lot to me. And so when you get into a business, people's perspectives can get funny if they feel like they're not getting what they're supposed to get, whether they're right or wrong about that. And so it's risky, but I want to make sure that we're doing the best job possible. So we've been working on it since I've left. And we're just trying to make sure. We'll probably do a soft launch at first and then launch it for real. I want to give a shout out to Victory Abroad for the $10 super chat. I really appreciate that. It's crazy. The internet is crazy. Like, you didn't have to do that, but you did. And I really appreciate it. It's like shows, appreciation for what I'm doing. I was really tired, but I wanted to get on here. I haven't talked to you guys in a while. And it was important for me to do so because there was a lot of things a lot of you guys that have my IG or that that are members or anything like that have been asking my opinions about a lot of these different things that are going on. So I felt like it's very important to talk about it. Hopefully, I feel like I give more questions than answers, but I think that's the whole point of this is these are things that we should be thinking about. I don't like to make conclusions too quickly. So, members. I appreciate you guys for sticking in there as members. I've been slacking on the content. I really want to know what you guys want to see in there. I could tell you a couple pieces of content that are coming up are going to be, all the content when I'm in Kenya goes to members only for the first 30 days. So with new developments, Pandora, Show House, any new developments, you're going to get early access to that information, especially because I'm getting relationships with some of the developers. I'm getting some early access to certain things, especially in this next trip. So, and if you've ever tried to buy any property out in Kenya on off plan, getting in early is the whole thing because all the best stuff gets snatched up before they're even announced. So there's a benefit there. The other thing is some of the content is just going to be members only, like the financial stuff. That stays members only. I think that's good content, but I need to cover some more stuff about it. Some personal stuff I put on there, but not too much. I don't think everybody's really looking for that, so I've chilled out on some of that. And dang, what was the other thing? The other important aspect of the membership. Oh my goodness! See, once it get dark outside, I'm no good no more. My brain don't work. It'll come to me in a second. The membership. It looks like you've lost some. Really, you could tell? Thank you. I lost 20 pounds. Actually, it's more than 20. Basically, I'm losing like 10 pounds a month. I'm almost back to where I started being a reasonable weight. I was gonna make a video about this. I gained 20 pounds going to Kenya because everyone's like, the food's healthier. You should be losing weight. Well, when the food is really good and affordable, easy to get, and it's fun to go out, you eat more food. But also, let me not. I, you know what people are doing? People are taking GLP-1 slash Ozempic and not telling y'all that's how they lost all the weight. It's just like some ladies get a BBL and then they take some gym pics and act like they did it through the gym and they lying. Okay, so I've been working out 6 days a week and I've been counting my calories. But I gotta tell you, it's not the names for all this stuff is funny because the first weight loss one is semaglutide, which is called Ozempic from the company. And now they have trizepatide, which is Zepbound. And then there's like a third version that's not approved yet. Well, I'm taking that, and it's lit because you don't feel hungry. It doesn't actually make you lose weight. Well, the third one does now. It increases your metabolism. But you don't, it doesn't make your body lose weight. What it does is make you feel less hungry so that dieting is less distracting. And for a busy person like myself, but you're busy in an office, all of a sudden you want to eat food. Or at least me. So it's been the best thing ever because it's easy to stay on your calories, on the proper amount of food. It's like, I took that and I'm like, oh, is this what like normal people that like eat enough food and then they're like, oh, I'm full. Is that what they feel like? Because it's the best thing ever. Because now I eat normal amount of food and be like, okay, I'm full. And then you don't have a desire to eat any more food. It's really good. And I'm Mr. I don't even take Tylenol, but it's good. I'm sorry. This sounds like an advertisement for GLP-1 slash Ozempic, but it's really changed everything. It's been a lot better. I need to do that. My wife is on GLP shots and she has lost. Yeah, man. It makes like I've lost 40 pounds and kept it off for a good amount of time naturally without taking anything. It's just like you only have, my perspective, you only have so much discipline or energy, mental energy to use. And it takes up a lot of energy to not eat for a long period of time if you feel hungry all the time, right? So it just gives you more clarity. Like I'm a lot more productive because I'm not sitting here thinking about ways to not think about eating because I'm hungry. It's really helpful. It really is. And it sounds like a cheat code and all that stuff. I would look into how that stuff actually works because I was really against it. But, and I work out 6 days a week because you will lose muscle if you don't eat, so. Best thing ever, though, because I'm not distracted. Hopefully, you've learned from your experience with your apartment that you can't expect Westland's quality when you pay Gong Road prices. Well, I didn't go to Gong Road, but what's funny? I have been gravitating towards the higher end stuff that is priced significantly more, but I don't know if that's for my own personal because I like the properties more. If you're just doing it for business, I don't know if there's a benefit of doing that. I do think if there is a market correction that the higher quality, the best type of properties are going to rent and hold up much better than the Gong Road type places, Riara Road places that are kind of mid. My first property is very mid. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more because we're still having issues with the management there. But I need to get some of my ducks in a row before I'm go. Guys, I'd never want to be negative about anybody. just like the interior designer that I had and such. It has to be really warranted, but it is getting to that point with my first property with the management. So we're gonna see what happens, because I got to keep it real. I'm never gonna fluff stuff up, and I'll show you guys my mistakes or bad things that happen. Although I've been getting the rent every month from that property since I've gotten the right leasing agent. So, oh, the other member perk. A big one is going to be I'm going to release all the financial data from my investment property after the first year, which I think is coming up quite soon because I have to go back and look at if I have a year's worth of rental data because I forget when I first started renting it because then we had vacancy for a couple months. I think we have hit a year. We've had a renter. They moved out, and then we got a new one. So I feel like that's a very realistic, I guess, pro forma or not. Well, pro forma is a project, but real numbers. That's going to be in members only, so you guys can see. And I'm going to do that for everything that I do is post the real numbers in the members only. So and really that's for like people that want to support the channel just because they like the mission, but also people that are pretty serious about investing or whatever. You're gonna really that's where you're gonna see the real numbers and stuff. And the inner circle membership gives you access to basically ask questions or consult. I haven't stuck to that well. Like some of you guys get a freebie here and there because my inclination is always to, it's not a big deal for me to answer a question, but at some point I'm gonna need to hold firm on that to the members only. So, but yeah, that first property is interesting because there's a lot of things that I didn't know and didn't consider. I've done consultations and I've definitely helped people avoid some of those same it's not really issues, but like considerations that you should have made that I didn't make on the first property. Just things I didn't think about that you should think about before you buy. I think it's very helpful. So that's what we've been doing. But I think that's about it. It's dark outside. It's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, very late in Kenya. Not my normal time, but again, I wanted to hop on here and talk about things for a little bit, especially that building collapse, because it's right in my category. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit, and I should be back next week. I'll try to post it a little bit earlier. I don't think I have any meetings on Sunday, so it'll be a little bit better. And then the week after, I'll be in Kenya, and a whole bunch of stuff is kicking off. So, see you guys later.